Hi, everybody. Getting started here. This is the first time that we're going to be presented to Congress or have any form of how Congress does things. So, the first thing that we're going to talk about is the lower house. We talked about this during the Great Compromise. But all in all, we're going to talk about the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives, as we know, has 435 members in it, all based on population. That was discussed in the Great Compromise, like we said. Obviously, our population has grown, so the members grow. We also have plus three from Washington, D.C., so 438 total overall. Let's talk a little bit about how the bill becomes a law in the House, or how it kind of takes. So, a task in each House, and the task for the legislative branch is to make legislation to basically make bills become laws in the United States of America. A lot of the past rulings, as you can see here, help guide a lot of the decisions that Congress members make. They print out new rules every 2 years when it comes down to this. An example, rules may limit a representative from speaking more than 5 minutes during the debate. So the House of Rep, one difference between the Senate and the House is the House has way more rules. Well, it's simple because there's more people in the House than there is in the Senate. There's only 100 in the Senate, and you're going to get that tomorrow. Okay, I'm not going to do PowerPoint, but you're going to do a read out of the book actually for the first time. So in the House, each House of Reps member is basically put into their own committee where they specialize in. There are so many members that members must organize in these specific committees and sit on different committees. Basically, what they do is they study and shape bills that get presented to the floor before they go to the floor. Um, they specialize in bills that really attain to their constituents. Their constituents are us, the people in the district they represent. Most will sit on committees that are of their interest to their constituents, okay, that they can have a say in or push for those bills. As you can see here, in both the House and the Senate, the Republicans will sit on the right, the Democrats will sit on the left. As you can see, the really liberal and the really conservative are of darker colors, and it kind of gets to the point where we have some blue collar and some light conservatives. Each House selects leaders who select committee chairs that sit on the committees, all right, and organize the workflow of those bills that come into the committees. Whoever owns the House usually creates the new rules that come every 2 years. So whoever has the majority. So at this point in time in the United States of America, the Democrats have the majority in the House. The Republicans have the majority in the Senate. So you can see how that's kind of flip-flop, how that would affect bills becoming laws. House leadership. All right. The House leadership has six main goals: organize and unify party members, and that's a big one. Get your party members to vote on that side of the bill, okay, whether it's conservative or liberal. Scheduling work, okay, for your committee members, everybody kind of underneath you. Um, Make sure lawmakers are present for key events and distribute and collect information. Number five, keeping the president informed about what's going on. And number six, influencing lawmakers to support the overall positions on different things. So the leader of the House of Representatives is known as the Speaker of the House. And the Speaker of the House comes from the majority party, and the majority party puts them in charge of the House of Representatives. And they are third in succession to the President of the United States. So if the President dies or is unfit to do his duties, if the Vice President dies or is unfit to do his duties, then the Speaker would become the President. If the Speaker is unfit to do their duties, then the President pro tempore from the Senate, who is voted on as the leader of the Senate, if the Vice President is not present, will be the President if all three cannot perform their duties. This is the presiding officer, most powerful leader in the House. She kind of sets the standards, chooses which bills are going to be priority. Okay, at this time it's Nancy Pelosi. Okay, and you can see the past one, Paul Ryan, who was the past senator from Wisconsin. I mean, the past House member from Wisconsin that was the Republican when the Republicans had the majority. I believe that's his name, Paul Ryan. Speaker duties. All right, so what are some of Nancy Pelosi's duties at this point in time? Appoints members of some committees to serve and sit on these committees of their specific interests. She really puts forth what's going to be presented in the House. So if she's a Democrat and she wants the Affordable Health Care Act to be put through right now, she's going to make that a priority and schedule that for an action to be voted on. She'll also take bills and situate them, refer them to committees to kind of be gone over, revised. She also follows the vice president line of succession to the president, like I said earlier. House floor leaders. So when we talk about the floor, the speaker is going to be the leader of the whole thing. Okay, so very simple. The speaker's top assistant is the majority leader, and this is the person under the speaker of the house. Their duties is to plan the party's legislative program. Okay, to basically see fit what bills are going to come up and which ones are necessary to be spit through committees and handled through committees at an appropriate time. They will steer important bills in the direction that they want them steered in, and they may want to make sure that all work is finished on the bills before they get presented to the House, okay, for vote. The majority whip, okay, so we have if we can go back here, we have the Speaker of the House. We have the majority leader that's under the Speaker. And then under the speaker is what we call the majority whip at this point in time. They assist, the assistant floor leaders in the House. Their duties is to watch over the House and see how members tend to vote on bills. They want to make sure that the majority whip wants to make sure that the majority of the Democrats that are sitting in the House vote Democrat when it comes to bills. They want to make sure that they vote on party lines and don't vote for a bill that's conservative, and make sure they are present to vote in important bills. Okay, so they'll be like, hey, put these ones on your calendar. You have to be here for this. The minority party, so the minority whip responsibilities are parallel to the majority party. So the minority party whip will say, you guys got to vote Republican at this point in time. You've got to make sure you're voting all conservative with bills that come up. Okay, so we need to vote against the Affordable Care Act. Okay, and make sure that they are present when it comes to voting against these things. And it will be big time when things that come to the House, if something gets vetoed by the president, they'll be like, hey, you got to get everybody here to vote against it or for it, depending on if they're majority or minority whips. Very important. Lawmaking, you can see a little chart that I have here when lawmaking, and we've kind of talked how bills become law. I don't know if we've talked about it yet, but all laws start as bills. Here's the bill process: is there's going to be an introduction of a bill. The bill is dropped in a hopper. We call it the hopper. It's a mahogany box, accessible to all in the form of the chamber. From the chamber, the speaker then sends it to the appropriate committee. So you can see how the speaker has an important duties when it comes to the bills, are the ones that looks at them first. Decides which bills are actually going to go into committee and for discussion and review. Of the thousands of bills, only about 10% go to the full House for a vote. So that's crazy. 4,000 or 5,000 bills get proposed in a year. Only 10% of those end up getting proposed for a bill for 365 days. So bills that survive the House calendar, which is a list bills up for consideration. So this is crazy. There's only 2 calendars in the Senate. The calendar for general fundamentals of order, which basically put bills in the Senate. Okay, so they vote on bills that come from the House. And then the executive orders one, okay, which was in the House, and they vote on presidential appointments. Okay, so they'll date or list when it's going to do. So I just saw in the newspaper yesterday that they're going to vote on the Supreme Court justice that's going to get put through. And it's the fastest it's ever been done. So President Trump appointed her, and it's going to be one of the fastest times, within I don't know exactly how long, but they said it's going to be one of the fastest times. And that is from the executive calendar in the Senate. So I was talking about the Senate there. But because there's so many more things passing through the House than there is through the Senate, they have to have more calendars because there's so many bills and they come from all these different committees. So there's 5 different calendars, and on these calendars, it says a time and when that bill is going to go on the floor for a vote. Does everybody understand this? Hope you do. So just for example, there's a union calendar. Any bill that has to deal with money is put on the union calendar. Why is this important? Because the speaker decides when this bill is going to go on the union calendar, and they can place them on the calendar for what's going to happen. That's why it's so important that, the Republicans want the majority and the Democrats want the majority in the House or the Senate. There's a House calendar, which has public bills on it, a private calendar dealing with individual people, a consent calendar, bills that may be discussed out of order. Okay, so, President Trump, the president says something that, hey, we need to talk about getting funding for the border, all right, with the wall that's going up and the border to keep, illegal immigrants out of Mexico. That might be put on the consent calendar to get funds to that point in time. If he makes an executive order to go to war, say with North Korea, the consent calendar will move that bill up so they can discuss funding, okay, whether to shoot it down or put it through. There's also a discharge calendar, bills that may be discharge of Congress, okay, or taken off the calendar. The House Rules Committee follows a big thing, control the flow of legislation. Like I said, the Speaker sits on the House Rules Committee. After committee has ruled and approved a bill, the Rules Committee can move bills up, keep them the same, or move back the bill in the calendar. So the House Rules, which is consisted of Republicans and Democrats, will fight over when bills are going to be discussed. The Rules Committee also sets the time the bill can be revised and debated on the floor. They settle disputes within committees. So if committee has an argument, they may come in, House Rules, and rule on that bill in which direction it should go. They can also block or delay bills that may be next on the floor. We all might ask, not every House Rep member may be present. They might be out doing stuff. How many people actually need to be there in order for a vote on a bill to be effective? And the minimum number of members needed for official legislative action is 218 members. If there's under 218 members, they cannot vote on any bill to become a law. So it is integral that the House of Reps members be present in the House when it comes down to a vote. And this is known as a quorum. A quorum. This is on your exam, so make sure you know that. All right, guys, that's it for the House of Representatives and kind of the things that makes up the House of Representatives. You're going to have to come back to this tomorrow. I'm going to have you compare and contrast the Senate and some of the rules and party affiliations and what's going on. Some of the things to remember in the House of Representatives is their main duty is to get legislation through to make them laws, so bills to become laws. Each one of the House of Reps, 465 of them, 435 members, plus 3, 438 members, sits on a committee, okay? They represent us as constituents. They have a party affiliation. And the House leadership, okay? And we talked about the House leadership. The number one person in the House is the Speaker. This is from the majority party. We saw it shift a couple years ago when it shifted from Republican to Democrat in the House. Okay, so Paul Ryan gave up his leadership to Nancy Pelosi. The House floor leaders, so we have the Speaker, then we have the majority leader underneath that, and under the majority leader, we have the majority whip. And it kind of mirrors these things. So that we have the minority leader, and then we have the minority whip. Okay, so all these different things. The lawmakers, the 5 different calendars that we discussed, the House Rules Committee that comes in and revises bills, keeps them the same, discusses when bills are going to go up on the calendar, and then there must be a 218 membership present in the House for a quorum. All right, guys, that's it for today. If you have any questions, please email me. This is the House of Representatives. Make sure you study this. I also posted just this PowerPoint if you want to look over it, take some notes, research some of the things, write them down, have a conversation with me. Remember, I can chat. Just shoot me an email, and I can always chat with you guys. All right, guys, have a nice day.